Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of That's Healthy, right? And this week, we're going to change things up a little bit. As you know, this is the show where we make sense of the world of health and fitness so you don't have to. It's a confusing place. There's lots that you read and lots of topics that it's very easy to be confused about. But sometimes there are a lot of topics that are not even discussed. Which is why this week we're going to be kind of in a role reversal. I will be asking the questions to Patrick because if you were paying attention, we recently published an article on Porn Fitness about male eating disorders. And it's a topic that deserves quite a bit of attention, but oftentimes is completely ignored or not discussed or completely misunderstood. And it was a very unique opportunity for us to discuss this problem because it's something that Patrick has actually battled himself, and he was willing to open up and share his story in an attempt to open the lines of communication for the many men that actually struggle from this problem. So in order to provide a little more clarity in male eating disorders, I wanted to allow Pat to explain a little bit about his own experiences and then allow us to create a little bit more clarity on what it is and what it isn't. Because when people think of male eating disorders or being a bulimic, I think there are a lot of concepts that come to mind. And the last thing you probably picture is this guy, a model of health, an athlete, muscular, lean. But it was a problem that actually dominated his life in many ways that was incredibly difficult for him to live with. So Pat, first of all, thank you for opening up on this. I know it was not an easy thing. And I think the place where we start is for you to just give a little bit of context, a little bit of color of what your eating disorder looked like. Because most people don't understand that eating disorders take many different shapes and sizes. And that's why they have trouble recognizing that they have a problem, especially for men. They may have disordered eating, but they only see it as anorexia or as binging and purging, and they do not see the many different ways from a food consumption or an exercise standpoint that can lead to a disordered behavior. So can you share a little bit about what your version looked like and that moment when you realized that you had a problem?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I'm by no means an expert. It's a very, very complex field, and I think that is one of the major issues. The whole premise behind any eating disorder is it's really just a mindset of a disordered eating, where it's such a big topic. And I will preface it by saying the biggest thing I can urge for anybody that feels like they may have some sort of disordered eating is to seek professional help. Because there's so many different philosophies, there's so many different perspectives when it comes to this field that please go to somebody people spend years studying this field, and it's still something that's, for right or wrong, is a topic that has so much more research needed behind it, but it is a very serious thing. For me, fitness and nutrition and health ruled my life, and it always has. I like to say now I'm in a place where the gym is somewhere that I can go to kind of just zone out and be in my own world, but at the same time, life for quite a while was a living hell. Missed out on so much outside of the gym due to the fact that I would determine my days on making it to a workout and not eating certain foods because it was going to make me fat. And the hardest part in it all was you never really want to admit it. It came from a perspective of like, all right, well, if I'm not living that way, then I'm just mentally weak, or I'm not strong, or all these manly associations, when now being on the other side of it, realizing how terrible that life was. So yeah, I don't know, it's such a big topic for me because it really ruled my life for such a long time.
Well, can you talk about either the break point or the realization where it wasn't just that you were hyper-focused on a goal. You talk about how it ruled your life, but in which ways did it have a negative impact? Because I think there are lots of people, both of us, we're very goal-oriented. We're very competitive. If we want to build muscle, we're going to bust our ass in the gym. If we want to eat healthy, we're going to be dedicated towards it. And there's obviously a very fine line, which you were talking about, between healthy and unhealthy. But I think for men specifically, we blur those lines between, I'm working hard and I'm allowing this focus on a goal to control everything I do.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the issue came down to the fact that I had this mindset that a goal, and my goal at the time was always fat loss, was going to provide some benefit in my life. That women would find me more attractive, I would love myself more. It was just this image that I had that if I reached this 0% body fat, that all of a sudden the world would change and my outlook would change. So what that led for me was this consistent battle. You saw there were times where I got extremely lean, but at the time, at that point in place, I look at photos now and I'm like, God, I would do anything to get back to that stage. However, when I was in that reality, I was never lean enough. And what it led to, and kind of like the final breaking point, was I was in this cycle that I had come out of such a fat loss phase in my workouts and did hit a very low body fat to where I rebounded. And what happened at that point was I gained not only the amount of weight from where I was before the cut, but I exceeded beyond it. I got to a point where I think I was at 225 and got up to about 265. And what was happening then was I went into a panic mode and wouldn't eat breakfast or lunch, or if I did, it'd be very, very small, have a decent sized dinner, kind of hoping to reset my calories and reset my system. And then all of a sudden I'd have a binge at night. And because I had restricted calories all day, my body was craving it. And it was this cycle that the next day, because I had binged that night, I'd go to the gym for 3 or 4 hours, trying to burn off that, wouldn't eat all day long, and then go home, have my decent sized dinner, hoping to get back on track tomorrow, and then repeat the cycle. And it finally reached a breaking point when I realized that I could no longer have foods in my house. It literally, if you looked at my pantry, I had no foods besides protein powder, oatmeal. My fridge consisted of vegetables and some meat, because those were not foods that I wasn't at 10 o'clock at night gonna all of a sudden cook up a hot bowl of oatmeal. But if I had any sort of crackers or anything that was tempting, it was gone. And I would literally finish the entire bag. And it finally just led to such a bad depression. I wouldn't leave the house because I was scared to go. If you would call us, let's go grab dinner, I couldn't do it. I was just so scared about, not being able to control what I was going to eat for dinner. Just the whole idea of leaving the house had basically imprisoned myself. And I didn't even know that was a problem. To me, that was just normal. It was just a normal thing, but it finally reached a point where I'm like, hey, something's got to change, because this cycle is just literally a living hell.
Can you talk about how this also manifests itself? Some people might seem like, obviously, you were struggling with this, you couldn't do it, but it was even in the minor ways that, your workouts would be influenced by your diet, or your diet would then influence your workout. No matter what you were doing, you were a slave to this focus in your mind on a day-to-day basis. So if you would eat a certain thing, you go to the gym for hours on end, or if you weren't eating, or if you weren't working out that day, you were going ahead and adjusting your diet. Can you give a little bit more insight into how much this really was a 24-hour cycle of what you'd be going through?
Yeah, it was a no-win scenario. Especially the hard part too is when you're in that cycle, And even if you do say to somebody like, I'm really struggling with food right now, this and that, they see your physical presence and they're like, there's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
Or day in and day out, somebody may throw a compliment your way. You're at the gym and you look good on the outside, but inside, I mean, whether or not you're talking from a nutrient standpoint, which I wasn't getting enough nutrients for sure, or even just this mental block that I had going on. It was though where I would wake up every morning and go to the gym as a punishment because I had to burn off everything I ate at night. And then at the same time, it got to the point where I couldn't have a day that I didn't work out because I knew if I didn't work out that I couldn't justify the calories I was going to eat later. Even though hypothetically I wasn't going to do it tonight, I'm not going to binge tonight, I'm not going to overeat, I'm not going to have the bad foods, quote unquote, that a dieter shouldn't be eating because it's going to make you fat. It literally, life revolved around the gym and food. And if I wasn't eating, I was continually thinking about what I am going to eat for dinner, or I would eat breakfast, and there's times where I still struggle with it, where it's like I'll eat breakfast and immediately I'm thinking, okay, what am I gonna eat for lunch? When it's like I literally just put the bowl down and I'm already thinking about the next meal, but my life was consumed around it. And primarily because I had so much stuff outside of my world that I couldn't control, that diet and nutrition and the gym were the only foundational things that I could control itself. And a big part of it, when I would binge, all of a sudden I'd raid the pantry. Because I was living so controlled, I found so much freedom in all of a sudden stuffing my face with, I mean, you've witnessed it, this is no joke, like there was a binge that I had 18 Quest bars, and I just couldn't stop. And as much as I wanted to, I didn't want to, because it felt like I was finally letting go. And like there was so much freedom in that. But the catch-22 being that all of a sudden, the second I'm finally done, and primarily stopped at 18, because if you know how expensive Quest bars are, it's a very like, binging and food disorder is a very expensive habit. Like I spent so much money on that. In one sitting, 18 Quest bars, especially when I was living abroad, Quest bars were so expensive. And I'd be looking at $40 down the drain for no reason other than the fact that I had to let this release out. And then all of a sudden it goes into extreme guilt in the fact that I just ate that amount of food. And not to mention, if you look at a Quest bar, I think there's like 20 grams of fiber.
I don't know how you were able to eat 18 Quest bars. I would explode.
Literally died for the next like 3 days from the amount of fiber I had in one sitting. But that was a very real thing that happened all the time. And if it wasn't Quest bars, it was cereal. If it wasn't cereal, it was anything I could get my hands on that I wasn't supposed to be eating. I had such a negative connotation for foods I was supposed to be eating and not. But it literally was just such a bad cycle to go through because there's no win. You couldn't work hard enough, and you couldn't eat less, you couldn't eat more. It just never ended.
So then talk about that shift, because obviously there's a couple. One, as a man, being able to admit that you have any type of eating disorder is not easy. But as someone who is in fitness and nutrition, changing that mindset of what you should or shouldn't be able to eat is obviously not easy. But how much of a big difference did it make for you? Because it's something that we talk about with all of our clients. It's something we talk about on this show, and it's something that's so hard for people to understand because we do believe there are good foods and bad foods. And people do not understand how dangerous this is, because when you think a food is bad, you will avoid it with such restriction that you are very likely to be pulled towards it and binge on it.
Right.
Because you have this bad relationship with food. Whereas if you come to understand that there aren't foods that are off limits, you can change your relationship with food in terms of enjoyment and what you can eat, and obviously preventing these type of like restrictive followed by binge type behaviors. Can you talk a little bit about, because obviously in your mind there was this, like there was healthy and there was not.
Correct.
And by avoiding the not healthy, it puts you in a position where you're more likely to binge. It was a trigger almost, because you were restricting yourself. That puts you in a very dangerous position for yourself. How difficult was it to kind of change that mindset? And then how helpful has it been for you, especially, battling what you've gone through?
It sucked. There's really no other way around it. I think the hardest part that I found was once I started to realize that there was something wrong, that what I was going through just wasn't right. Then what do? You try to find other people that have been through it. And one of the things that led me to actually being okay to writing this article and now trying to raise awareness around males with eating disorders, the fact that I literally, at the time I was living abroad. So when I contacted professionals in the United States, they could not help me legally because one, I was out of state, but two, I was out of the country. I reached out to somebody in California and somebody in New York, and both of which I ended up working with. And I lived in California, was able to work with her, and down the line, I'm good friends with the one in New York now. But they couldn't. There was nobody to turn to, and quite honestly, it was the exact opposite. Anytime you're on social media, or take social media for example, 9 times out of 10 you're on a fitness blog, you're going to see the guy that has his prearranged meals that are stacked up in their containers, and it's broccoli, rice, and some protein. And that's what you need to do in order to achieve a good body. There's very few people that show a balanced meal plan. And when they do, it's this concept of if it fits your macros. So what I saw was this dream of if it fits your macros, and you see these guys now they'll post their photos and they're shredded and they're jacked, but it's mounds of cookies, and thinking like, God, okay, if I can just make that fit, if I can make that fit my lifestyle and how much I'm supposed to be eating in order to achieve a goal, like that was the ultimate dream, and not really understanding what if it fit your macros really means. And then take the opposite. Take somebody like Marshawn Lynch, who during football games, who was a running back, who retired now, he's eating Skittles on the sideline. He gets demonized for doing that. And especially in athletics, there's this mindset that you need to be eating the right things, you need to avoid certain foods, you need to be doing this and that and the other. It was very hard. And as you know, one of my biggest accomplishments today is the fact that I can now have one bowl of cereal, my favorite cereal, which is Panda Puffs, or one of the most relieving things is going to get ice cream with my girlfriend. The fact that I'm now at a place that I can go and have one ice cream cone or one bowl of cereal, and not what would happen in the past is I would have that bowl of cereal, but that would lead to me eating the entire box. And being able to realize I can have that one indulgence and it's not going to change. In fact, I feel better now that I mentally have this understanding that it's okay, I'm not going to get fat off that one ice cream cone or one bowl of cereal. And honestly, I actually go to the gym now and have a way better workout.
Or like not having to go ahead and eat that ice cream and feel the need immediately to go work it out.
To go punish myself.
Right.
Exactly. One of the biggest things I realized post-recovery, even during recovery, was this fact of how much better I felt when I wasn't working out 7 days a week,
right,
trying to kill myself. I mean, not only was I going 7 days a week, it was lifting as hard as I could, trying to sweat as much as possible.
You wore all the layers.
I wore about 15 layers.
Yeah.
Because one, I thought it was cool. Two, it was literally a punishment thing. That if I didn't leave the gym and my clothes weren't completely soaked, it didn't feel like I accomplished what I needed to. So the danger really was this concept, and that kind of was, I think, the start of the eating disorder, was this idea that some foods need to be completely excluded in order to, one, either achieve fitness goals as far as like physique and or from an athletic standpoint.
And you're someone who's informed too, and I think that's the important part of this. That like you knew that you shouldn't be working out 7 days a week. You had an understanding of this stuff, but when it gets to this dangerous point, it's when there is no override. It's almost like you're not in control of your own behaviors, because whether you're eating or whether you're exercising, you're always trying to undo a guilt or a bad feeling or a struggle that you have internally with either how you look or how you feel. And I think that's the hard part for so many people, especially with talking with you and exploring this topic. It's not just for those who are ignorant or aren't in control. It's like this is how vicious of a disease that it is. Like even when we would talk all the time and you would know, hey, I'm going to work out 4 times this week, and then somehow it ended up being 7, and you would have your workout and you would double up on what you were doing.
And that's the thing is, it's because no matter how much I knew, I never went into it thinking, okay, I'm going to work out 7 days. It was always that tomorrow I'm going to get back on track. And tomorrow, all of a sudden you look back and you've been saying tomorrow for 8 weeks. And for those 8 weeks, you worked out 7 days because you kept repeating the cycle, hoping that the next day would be different. It was this goal that all of a sudden I wouldn't have to work out that hard, but every time I would eat that way or whatever, I had to punish myself the next day. So what you fall into that trap, even though I knew it was bad. If I gave advice to anybody else, I'd say, no, you're crazy. You can't go to the gym 7 days a week, and you can't lift at 100% 7 days and live this lifestyle, yet I was doing it.
Right.
And I could give other people the advice, but I couldn't give it to myself, and I just couldn't break that barrier.
Any tips, resources, places that you would recommend? Even if it's just an article you read for anyone who might be struggling with this, know someone who's struggling with this that you might recommend. Obviously, as you said at the beginning, going to get help is the first step. And it's a difficult step. It's not easy in any situation when you realize that you have a problem that you need assistance with, but there's nothing wrong with asking for help. In anything in life, it's actually probably the best thing you can do. We all need help sometimes, and there's no problem relying on others to help yourself become better. Are there any resources or recommendations you would make for people if they're going through something or know someone going through something?
Yeah, I mean, there is a tremendous, and that's kind of the what was so hard at first. There is a lot of resources online. However, especially as a male, they are very much geared toward women.
Right.
And that was a big thing I had to get over, was all of a sudden it felt like I was reaching out to a women's group in order to ask, do I really have a problem? But I was very, very surprised in the fact that I reached out to 2 of the leaders in that industry. And one I came across was from Lane Norton and Zoe Lee's podcast. And they had her on as a guest, Dr. Megan Klobundy from Stanford. And I decided to try to throw a Hail Mary. I was like, that's it, I'm gonna just email her. I found her email on like Stanford's website and literally just wrote an email saying, I'm desperate, I need to talk to somebody. Can you help? And she reached out and wrote back right away and was able to at least point me in a direction. And the other one was Dr. Tara DiLiberto, who is now very much a leader in that industry, based out of New York. And I reached out to her via Twitter and got a response. And both of which, they were very upfront in the beginning, they could not help me legally. I was able to work with Megan, like I said, because I was in California. So, and Tara is just a friend that I can throw ideas off with now, and she was very upfront, though we were never able to talk about my actual experience. But the point there is the fact that nobody's off limits, especially in that world, because a lot of people in that world are there to help. And they may not be able to help you, but they can provide sources that can. My biggest piece of advice, really the only piece of advice I would give, would be go find somebody. The other piece of advice, only because it worked for me, was, and this was through you, was more of the CBT approach to eating disorders. I found that there's...
CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy.
Correct, and I found that there was kind of 2 philosophies when it came to eating disorders, and one is very much like an AA philosophy, Alcoholics Anonymous, where it's, if there's a trigger food, you avoid it. And you know that that's something like, from, in my case, cereal, for example, that if I had one bowl, that ultimately led to the entire box of cereal. The problem I had with that, though, was this concept of, okay, that's gonna work for the short term. In the long term, I know when I have children, I don't wanna look at my son and say, you can't have cereal because daddy can't eat it, and I don't want it in the house. And cognitive behavioral therapy, basically that instinct of like, okay, I had my one bowl of cereal, how can I change my thought pattern into what can I do to just have one bowl and know that it's okay and it can stop there. And I will tell you the process is not easy, but it is very much doable. It really is kind of rewiring your thinking. So no matter what book I recommend, and I've read a bunch, no matter who I would say to talk to, it's literally just go out and find somebody that you can meet with and start their therapy, especially if you think you have an issue, because there's no instant cure and it's not an easy thing to get over, but there are very successful therapies for it.
Yeah, and as I said, asking for help, reaching out, it's the most courageous thing you can do. You get one life, you get one body, you might as well do everything you can to make the most of it and not feel like you're a victim of something you can't control when you can. It might take extra work, might take extra effort, but I think it's always worth it. So thank you for sharing your story, Pat. Obviously, it takes a lot of courage to discuss something so personal and give a name and a face to it. But I do think that it can change a lot of people's lives. And it lets people know that if you're struggling with it, there's no reason to be a victim. No reason you can't fight back and make a change.
Well, I appreciate it, and thank you for everything.
Yeah, of course. All right, you guys, special edition of That's Healthy, Right? We will be back with more of the news and Pat finding ridiculous stories everywhere and anywhere next time.